أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I begin as always in the name of Allah, whose grace I seek in this and all other matters. I'm Dr. Amina Wadud, and today I'd like to talk with you about how we tend to think about Allah as male, and I want to deconstruct this notion, which means I'm going to have to do a little bit of conversation about Arabic. I'm not going to speak in Arabic, but there'll be a few things that need to be explained because of the revelation of the Quran in Arabic to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Arabic is a utility. It is not more than or less than any other language. It just was the language that was most appropriate for a revelation to an Arabic-speaking prophet. So I'm actually going to call this one Allah is not male, because I really have to start there, because in the Abrahamic religious traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the overwhelming facility of men in explicating what these revelations mean, and in being the leaders or rulers of not only the interpretation of the religion, but even how the religion functions, is complicated by the fact that when they locate themselves within the privileged position of being male, it's harder to then consider why it is that we also think about Allah or God as male. And I have had those ideas, and those ideas have evolved from my studies and my spiritual experiences. So I want to share a little bit of that with you. So let's start with Kul Hu Allahu Ahad. Say He is Allah, the One. And we're emphatic about the oneness of Allah and the unique nature of Allah. Laysa kamithlihi shay, that Allah is not like shay, like things. And the Quran, from which we get this statement, also says, Min kulli shayin khalaqna zawjayn. From all things, we have created the pair. Now, I have to give a really long conversation about the notion of pairs, which I won't do this time, but let's just stick with the basics, because at least we think about the male and female pair, zakar al-untha, because there's a lot of reiteration of this also in the Quran. So the first thing to understand is that Allah's nature is unique. Laysa kamithlihi shay, not like things. So when we try to understand Allah, we tend to use our understanding from our languages. And our languages, some have the divide. For example, in Arabic, there's huwa wa hiya. And in fact, everything in Arabic is marked by either its grammatical male or masculine location or its feminine location. So when I first started speaking Arabic, it was a challenge for me as an English speaker to remember that when I want to describe myself, I need to put the feminine ending on it. It's a part of the grammar. I can't just be talib, student. I have to say taliba. I have to say female student. And when you have a language like English that does not mark the adjectives and does not require a change in the sentence structure in order to accommodate these descriptions and the like and attributes with a specific form, student in English goes for both male and female, this is a change, this is a challenge. But the problem is that in Arabic grammar, somebody made the decision, guess probably was because it was overwhelmingly male, that the generic form of a thing will be in the masculine form. So, for example, the generic word for pregnant, hamil, is also in masculine, although men never get pregnant. Hamil coming from the word to carry and its, specific usage. So the idea that certain generic words are in their masculine form and that the masculine then continues to be used as generic leads some people to ascribe to it the specifics, that in other words, every time you use the masculine form, it also means male. So, of course, we do this with regard to Allah. The Quran says, Hu Allah. It uses huwa, which means he, and it never says hiya, which means she. So why would I in English say he, she, and it? Because in English we have three what we call pronouns. They, function in different parts of the sentence, which is another conversation we don't need to go into. But because we have this it form, we even began to think that there are things that are not marked by gender, but this doesn't occur in Arabic. In Arabic, everything has to be marked, masculine and feminine. And because we have this space in between with the word it, at least for me as an English speaker, it makes it easier for me to understand that the ascriptions to Allah as male are merely a function of the limits of the Arabic language. And what I mean by limits is, if we were to think about a chair, kursi, in Arabic we'd have to think about that chair as being masculine in order to be able to describe it properly and to construct sentences with the right verb form. And in English, we wouldn't do this because we have a notion of the it. But because there are also languages like Farsi, like Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Indonesia, that have only one form. In fact, I call these the Tawhidic languages that have only one form. A Bahasa speaker trying to make a sentence in English, I notice, will sometimes mix up the masculine and feminine because they're just not accustomed to. It's just like me. I wasn't accustomed to putting a feminine ending on words describing myself because I didn't have to do that in English. So I've heard a Bahasa speaker say, my husband, she's in the kitchen. And I think it's kind of funny because what it indicates is that the use of the pronoun is not literal. The use of the pronoun is simply a function of the language. So I thought about this also in terms of Arabic. The use of the pronoun huwa with regard to Allah is not literate. So huwa does not mean muzakkar, does not mean Allah is male. It's just a function of the language. But what's funny is that people get really adamant about the existence of the conversations with the masculine and the absence of conversations with the feminine with regard to talking about Allah. They get very literal. Huwa means huwa, and huwa means male, and they go into all of the grammar that's ascribed to it. But at the same time, many places in the Quran, the pronoun we, which literally means plural, self and others, in one form, the pronoun we use with regard to Allah is never taken as literal. Instead, they explain it away. So as soon as you, on the one hand, want to ascribe a literal understanding from one pronoun with regard to Allah, and on the same hand, require an explanation to justify the use of another pronoun, i.e., you don't take it literal, it means that there has been an intervention of language itself. So I try not to be distracted by the intervention of the restrictions of the Arabic language with regard to marking things male or female and for using the male as a generic. In fact, Allah has 99 names. And of these names, some are considered to be Jalal, which for some people means active, means powerful and means male. And Allah has Jamal names like Latif, like Wadud, like Karim, like Rabb, the nurturer. And these Jamal names, some ascribe to them passivity or receptivity and feminine. And yet, Allah is united in all of these 99 names to the ultimate one, back to Kul Wallahu Ahad. Say, she is Allah, the one. So for me, I began to think about the limitations on how we relate to this sublime and superb reality, which on the one hand has 99 names, and on the other hand, people want to restrict to being only male. And I challenged it because the notion of a male God does not allow for laysa kamithlihi shay, for it to not be like other things. And I also challenged it because trying to understand the nature of Allah's proximity to all human beings, closer than your jugular vein, the Arabic says in the Quran, to understand this intimacy of Allah means that I did not want a stranger, a male stranger, in the presence of my most intimate self. And I realized that I also had been stuck in thinking about Allah as necessarily being male, as opposed to accepting that Allah transcends gender. So to make this point come home, I will intentionally, in my videos and in my life, as I already have, use he, she, and it interchangeably when I'm talking about Allah, because she is our Lord. Thank you. Please be sure to like, comment, and I'm leaving the comment section open even though the naysayers are out there challenging my faith. It's just the nature of social media, and if, it gets out of hand at some point, maybe I will decide to cut off the comment section. But for now, it's just a part of the process. Thank you very much.